The laughter started the moment she stepped onto the runway, quick, careless, the kind that comes from people who think they already know the ending before the story even begins. Raven didn't look left or right. She didn't need to. Her boots struck the concrete in slow, unhurried steps as she moved toward the old jet parked in isolation at the far end of the airbase. The aircraft looked like an insult, its paint faded into patchy grays, metal plates mismatched, scars of old missions carved into its frame like forgotten battle wounds. The other pilots, wearing brand new flight suits and polished helmets, nudged each other with smug grins. "She's flying that," one snickered. "Is this some kind of joke?" another whispered. But Raven didn't respond. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was the quiet before a storm no one else knew was coming. As she approached the aircraft, a chill passed through the air, not from the weather, but from something unspoken, something ancient that seemed to live inside that jet. She placed her hand on the cold metal, and for a moment, it was like the entire runway took a breath. Behind her, the laughter grew louder, but then a sharp voice shattered its stern, commanding, and instantly obeyed. The commander stepped forward, his boots echoing with authority, his eyes fixed not on the crowd, but on the aircraft like he had seen a ghost rise from the past. Raven paused, her hand steady on the ladder, and the commander's face shifted from disbelief to something far heavier, respect mixed with fear. No one at the base knew her story. They didn't know she was once a test pilot trusted with projects so classified they didn't even have official names. They didn't know the missions she flew had been erased, the witnesses bound to silence, the aircraft sealed away in hangars that didn't exist on maps. All they saw was an outdated machine and a quiet woman who didn't bother to defend herself. But the commander knew exactly what he was looking at. His voice dropped, cold and slow, as he addressed the stunned pilots around him. "Stand back. That's no ordinary plane. That's the Ghosthawk," and in an instant, the runway that was filled with mockery moments ago now felt like sacred ground. The smirks disappeared, the whispers died, and every eye locked onto the woman they had just underestimated. Raven didn't smile. She simply climbed into the cockpit, ready to let the truth reveal itself at 40,000 feet. The moment Raven powered up the Ghosthawk, the cockpit hummed with a vibration that felt almost alive, as if the machine was waking from a long, forced sleep. The younger pilots watched from a distance, expecting the old jet to sputter or choke, but instead, the panels lit up in a symphony of deep blue and amber, systems booting with a precision that felt unnervingly modern for something they believed was outdated. Raven's hands moved across the controls with the ease of someone who knew the aircraft better than she knew her own pulse. The truth was simple. She had flown this jet through storms, over war zones, and across borders that officially didn't exist. This wasn't a relic. It was a weapon born ahead of its time. As she initiated the pre-flight sequence, a memory flashed the classified test range where the Ghosthawk first proved its worth. It was designed to vanish from radar, mimic enemy signatures, and outrun anything airborne. But the program had been terminated after one incident, a night where the aircraft returned covered in scorch marks, and Raven refused to speak about what she had encountered. The jet was sealed away. She was reassigned. Files were buried. Yet here she was again, touching the machine they tried to erase. The commander knew what the others didn't. The Ghosthawk wasn't retired, it was hidden. And if Raven was flying it today, something significant was about to happen. Something big enough to pull a ghost back into daylight. The engines ignited with a roar so deep it rattled the windows of the control tower. The pilots who had mocked her fell silent instantly, their expressions twisting from amusement into disbelief. The Ghosthawk lifted off the runway with a grace unnatural for a jet of its age, as if the air itself respected it. Within seconds, Raven angled the nose up and shot into the sky, climbing faster than their multimillion-dollar fighters had ever managed during training. The base personnel stared upward, eyes wide, trying to reconcile what they were seeing with what they believed was possible. Then the radio crackled. "Ghosthawk 1, you're cleared for test maneuver," the commander said, his voice tight with anticipation. Raven smirked. Copy. Beginning phase sequence. What happened next became runway legend. She cut her altitude by half in a single motion, dropping faster than a stone only to pull up at the last second, riding a razor-thin line between mastery and madness. The aircraft twisted, inverted, spun like a blade slicing through the sky. Each movement was impossibly precise. In the tower, one pilot whispered, "No fighter we have can do that." Another muttered, "Pale, no pilot can do that, but Raven could," because she had been trained in the one place none of them would ever see, the Ghost program, where pilots were chosen not for rank, but for survival instincts sharp enough to bend aviation physics. And she wasn't showing off, she was reminding the airbase and, maybe the world, why the Ghosthawk had once been considered untouchable. When Raven landed, the runway was so silent you could have heard a pen drop. The jet rolled to a stop, steam rising from its wings like breath from a living creature. She opened the canopy slowly, stepping onto the ladder as if she were returning from another world. The same pilots who had laughed hours earlier now stood frozen, unsure whether to salute her or the machine behind her. The commander walked straight toward her, boots striking like thunder across the concrete. He stopped inches away, studying her face. "Then the jet, you didn't tell them, did you?" he said quietly. Raven shrugged. "Would they have believed me?" He sighed a long, heavy sound carrying years of classified weight. And then, for the first time, he spoke the truth aloud. This aircraft was built for missions the world wasn't ready to know about. Shadow retrieval, silent infiltration, and operations that required a pilot with instincts beyond training. You were the only one who survived all 3 trials. "You're not a regular pilot, Raven, you're the last of the Ghost program." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The commander turned to the stunned pilots. "You think her jet is outdated. She flew it into storms that wiped out satellites. She outran missiles that should have killed her. That plane isn't a relic. It's the reason half of you are alive today." Raven looked at the Ghosthawk, running her hand along its warm metal. "It's not the aircraft that matters," she said softly. "It's what you become when the world underestimates you." And in that moment, every pilot understood they hadn't been laughing at an old machine, they'd been laughing at a legend. As the sun dipped behind the hangars, the base felt different, quieter, heavier, as if everyone sensed they had just witnessed something they would tell future recruits for years. Raven didn't stay for applause. She walked past the stunned pilots with the same steady calm she had shown all day, her boots echoing softly on the concrete. Legends don't need noise. They leave their mark in silence. The Ghosthawk was rolled back into Hangar 3, its black frame glowing faintly under the dim lights. No one joked now, no one whispered. They stood at attention out of respect, out of awe, out of the realization that some people carry battles inside them that others can't even imagine. The commander paused beside the jet, his voice low as he said, "We don't get many like her, and when we do, we protect them." Later that night, the recruits sat together replaying every moment, every maneuver, every impossible second of the flight. And each one silently admitted what pride had kept them from saying earlier. They wanted to be like her. They wanted that courage, that precision, that unbreakable spirit. Raven looked back at the hangar one last time before disappearing into the night. To her, it wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about reminding herself and everyone watching that true strength doesn't shout. It doesn't demand recognition, it simply rises when the world least expects it. And that's why the Ghosthawk still flies, not as a machine, but as a warning. Never underestimate the quiet ones, they're the ones who change everything.